Do we need Renee's singing to get us started in the morning when we start? I don't sing.
Yes, you do.
I yell and scream.
Yes, you do. Yeah, there we go. That would be great too. We could just rock it out on a Friday.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it. This is the iMore show.
It kind of sounded more like a dying cat, but we got it. All right. Good afternoon. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2020. And today we're going to talk about all the leaks from this past week and a whole lot more because this is the iMore Show. And joining us on the show today is expert therapist and founder of westmounttherapy.com, Georgia Dow. Welcome to the show.
Woo!
All right.
That was my intro thing.
It was your
that was so much better. That was so much better. Just dub that, Jim. Just dub that over mine.
And also joining us on the show, assistant managing editor of iMore, Joe Keller. Give us your rock and roll shout, Joe.
I absolutely will not do that.
His answer is no.
Nope. Just nope. Hard nope.
In many different universes, Joe Keller's hair is many different lengths, but none of that.
But we all have that in our soul. Just no.
One day, Joe, I'll get you to Yelp. So before we continue with this episode, I want to give a quick spoiler alert. Now, I normally wouldn't say something like that when we're talking about leaks and rumors because they're always just rumors. But in this case, these leaks are pretty spot on. So it's legitimate. You're going to find out what's coming out this year. It's almost definitely going to happen. So if you don't want to hear about it, skip ahead 10 minutes and we'll hopefully be done talking about that. But we are going to be
ahead another 10 minutes.
Yeah. We're going to be talking a lot about leaks. I'm not even calling them rumors because they're pretty detailed and pretty correct from what I can tell. Nothing is confirmed by Apple, but this is all information that we're pretty close to believing. So let's get started with a leak that actually just came out, I believe today or yesterday, which is information about Apple's rumored Apple glasses or AR glasses or whatever you're going to call them. At this point, we may not know when, but we know they're coming. And John Prosser, who is the leak expert from 2019 to 2020, we're all on board with John. He's got lots of things to say. He's been on our show, and we were very lucky to have him. He just told us today, actually, it just happened today, that he has seen Apple's glasses in with his own eyes, maybe has even got them in his own possession. We're not sure, but he's definitely seen them. And he believes that they are expected for March or June of 2020, which is actually a little different from what Ming-Chi Kuo had said previously, which is that he doesn't expect them until 2020. So John, though he loves Ming-Chi Kuo's expertise, he actually is going against him on this one and saying, actually, I think it's a year from now, not 2 years from now. So, Joe, I know you're very excited about the potential of what Apple's AR glasses could be. What do you think? How does this feel for you?
I like the sound of it, certainly. Sleek, next year instead of 2 years from now. Two of my major benchmarks there. Yeah, the Apple glasses, we've been hearing about those I might have still been writing news regularly when we started to hear about those. But yeah, I'm excited about the prospect of those being a early to mid 2021 product. And it kind of lines up with certain other leaks that have come out in the past of software. There was John Prosser mentioned something called Starboard, and this is supposed to be the internal code name for the UI of the glasses, just like Springboard is the internal name for the launcher of iOS, the home screen, and app launching system. And Starboard has been something that there were references to kind of early on in the iOS 13 beta and release life cycle that were eventually removed. But it sort of indicates that, yeah, glasses at least were, maybe possibly are, a relatively around the corner product for that we might see.
So Georgia, if we were, we don't know what these AR or possibly VR glasses can actually do. So you are actually kind of an expert on virtual reality. You've got a room dedicated to virtual reality, don't you?
I do.
Yeah,
I'm all in for virtual reality.
So I think we're all assuming that this is going to be AR glasses, not VR glasses. And in other words, this is going to be something that you could potentially wear on a daily basis, possibly even while you're out walking around.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. It's different than, and Apple's also rumored to be working on a headset, more of VR and augmented at the same time. But this would be a standalone, we believe, will be a standalone device that you can wear even if you're not with your watch and your phone, which is the weirder part to me, is that it's not going to be using it to, like, even now the watch, though, you can kind of use it standalone, does a lot of the, the legwork in between your phone, and you get usually more things with it. So this would be kind of a standalone device that would look like regular glasses, and yet, similar to Google Glass, would be feeding you all kinds of interesting information about the world around you. For me, it would be great for directions, for, like, I'd love some incoming messages. I'd love to be able to answer phone calls. And I would love to just find out, like the Terminator, I'd like to find out about the world that's around me and get more information without having to look at it. And so it's kind of exciting to see it, because, again, Apple really does, with the date, Apple's going to make sure that this works out really well before they're going to release it. They don't want to have the same thing that happened with Google Glass to happen with them. So I think that they're going to make sure that this prototype really works well before they're going to decide to go ahead. But if they're already here, like, we're hearing dates run around, this is much sooner than we had expected, which was 3 years. Like, I was thinking, 3-5 years, we're going to have something that's really workable. But this is in the near future. That is vastly exciting.
It's very exciting. I keep coming back to this fear that it's too early. So the one thing that we've known for quite a while with Apple is that they're very good at reading the market and waiting until the market tells Apple what's needed. And the Apple Watch, for example, was kind of the mistake in that Apple put out the Apple Watch before wearables had really gotten popular enough. So the first iteration of Apple Watch was a little confused. It was hard to figure out what it was good for. And 5 iterations later, it's actually the perfect wearable. But they basically kind of put out a beta in a sense of Apple Watch to begin with, because there wasn't a lot of market testing to determine what was popular. So is are these Apple glasses, are they going to suffer from that same issue of the first iteration is actually going to be confusing and not make any sense, and all of our friends are going to tell us we're dumb for having them, and then 5 years later everybody's walking around with Apple glasses? Or do you think AR, Georgia, you can maybe talk about this a little bit. Do you think AR is already ready for for wearables?
I don't think so. I think that there are some of us that are heavily on the bandwagon already, but I think that we're the few. I think that there is still the factor of people feeling uncomfortable about being possibly watched or having data that is about them that's out there. So I think that it is really early for that. I think actually the Apple Watch will have a better reception than the glasses will, because Google Glass, when they came out, did make people feel really uncomfortable. One is they were very obvious and bulky, but at least then you knew, right? The thing is that people that are looking at you but aren't actually paying attention to you is even more distracting, that at least if I look down at my watch, I can turn it off. And so I think that this is going to cause a whole bunch of different issues that we'll need to solve. in society, in schooling, because they're supposed to look pretty sleek and like glasses. Which
Right.
I think in the end, wearables, like in the end, we want our technology where it's not going to be, it's on us instead of having to be carried by us. That's easier. So I think that that's where we are going with our technology, that it's going to be closer and closer until it is internally part of us, which comes up with all kinds of other Black Mirror type scenarios. But I think that you're right. I think that it's going to have a whole bunch of backlash, a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of issues that we're going to have to look into, because technology is good, but it's also bad. And so they're going to have to think very carefully of what, even though they could put a camera on it, do they?
Yeah.
And would that then cause positives or negatives? Joe?
And I think that actually, in terms of wearables and privacy, is an interesting question, because when I'm wearing my Apple Watch, I expect, some of that data, anonymized or whatever, is going to go to Apple, so they can improve the watch and, make the next version of the watch better, that sort of thing. I do kind of expect that, but there's no camera on the watch, so I'm not necessarily worried about the privacy of other people with regards to the watch. But when it comes to something like glasses, I think one of the biggest questions about this product is will it have a camera mounted to it? And at this point, I'm actually not sure that it will. Apple, back in March, Apple released the new iPad Pro with a LiDAR sensor. That's a pretty small LiDAR sensor. And I think, Apple's AR push has primarily been about this glasses project. That's my personal theory. I think that's the personal theory of a lot of people. But I think LiDAR, in terms of capturing distance data and other environmental data, I think that might be the primary way of doing that, and it might not have a camera at all. Plus, that's if they forego a camera, I mean, say you need an iPhone to take, if you really want to take pictures, get an iPhone. And there's also the privacy angle, and that's hardware that they don't have to put in the glasses, making it that much easier to make them smaller.
Yeah. And again, even with LiDAR, it still brings up a whole bunch of privacy issues
Yeah.
and data issues, right?
That's
Like we go back into this Orwellian world where it used to be, in the book, the government's putting cameras all over the place, but now we're putting cameras into our personal life,
Mhm.
and it's difficult to turn it off. Even with the Apple Watch, when and other watches, like, when your heart rate goes up, sometimes that means you're stressed. Sometimes that means you're getting amorous with your special person. Do you really want that to be tracked on your watch? This is different information that is very personal in nature, and with something that is so comfortable on your face. And let's say that you could even have, it is your pair of glasses. You don't have to wear it on top of glasses. You can, put it on and keep it on. And this would be your main pair of glasses. It's then tracking all kinds of things that the other person may not want this information to be out there. And then how do we keep it secure when it's going to be all over the place and very useful and helpful?
I think I think I might be in a little bit of a disagreement on any kind of LiDAR sensor or camera of any kind on Apple glasses, for reasons that you're both saying, which is the privacy and security issue. Maybe in a future iteration, but I think out the gate, the biggest mistake Apple could make is putting something on a pair of glasses that makes people feel unsafe or feel like their privacy might be affected. So you and Georgia, I think potentially, at least at first, that would also mean that it would have to be tied with your iPhone or possibly your Apple Watch. And maybe by 2021, Apple Watch will be a standalone. And so you wouldn't need your iPhone even to set it up or something like that. We might be like other technologies might be more advanced to allow for Apple glasses to be standalone, but also need to be supported by a different device. And here's why. Think about use cases for AR glasses. You're talking about something that helps you with directions so that you look up and you see an arrow that points left or right or something like that. You don't need a camera for that. Your phone doesn't use the camera to give you the directions, and your Apple Watch doesn't use a camera to tap you on the wrist when it's time to turn left or right. So you could still have this location data. So it's using like accelerometers and other location sensors, but not an actual camera. And I realized that LiDAR is very important for the advancements of placing 3D objects in front of you, for example. And AR and LiDAR, they go hand in hand. But if our use case is in the intent to go out in the world with them, I don't think we need LiDAR. I think we need things like notification. It's like an Apple Watch on your face. We get the notifications, we get the direction information. Maybe we walk up to a business, we're standing in front of the business and we don't know what it is, and we can pull up Apple Maps that will tell us based on where we're standing, what we're looking at. So when it comes to a pair of glasses you put on your face, you don't want a camera. And Apple is definitely not going to scare us with something that everybody in the room can be like, I don't want you in this room with me because you might be filming me because you have a camera on your eyes. They're going to do something to protect that version. If they do any kind of camera or LiDAR with 3D rendering and all that kind of wonderful stuff that we're excited to see, where we can drop a couch right in our living room, I think that completely changes the dynamic of what AR glasses by Apple are going to be. There's two different versions. There's one that could be a daily wear where you take it outside, you use it for directions and stuff, things like that, or a completely different use case, a different type of AR glasses, which are only intended for at-home use, which would be for maybe you're sitting in front of your computer and you're, typing, but your typing screen is actually right in front of you, or for video games, AR video games or something like that. And it's not meant to leave the house. It's meant to be your at-home device. And I think both of them are an option, but I think based on the descriptions we're hearing, it's more likely to be the kind of glasses that we take out, which means I think Apple is not going to risk our fear of privacy and security by sticking a camera on that. There's more thoughts on that. And then Apple also, just to throw that in there, Apple has confirmed that it acquired Next VR. Next VR is a AR VR service that connects people to live concerts. So when you can go see a basketball game, or you can go see Beyonce or something like that, and it shows like there's people there at the event that are using their 3-dimensional cameras, and they're filming the crowds, the floor, the ceiling, the concert itself, or basketball games. It's all the way around, so that everywhere you look, you're actually able to see the game and be immersed in it. So, this is another example of like, what use cases are we going to see this AR VR headset for? Is it going to be something like I put these glasses on and the world around me disappears, which is more like something that would have a LiDAR camera and a camera inside of it, and you are shut off from the world and you're watching a concert? Or is it something more like an AR interactive experience where you're walking around? So these are all still things that are very unknown. We might get ideas of what they look like and how soon we're getting them, but what they're going to be used for is really kind of like the hardest thing for us to predict, mainly because there's nothing out there that exists like that yet. So we're still not sure what we need AR for.
Well, thinking about that, like their acquisition of Next, is that now in this like isolation world where you don't know how long it's going to be, like this is a great time for them to acquire, and this is just me being totally crazy and out there, if with your subscription to the whatever basketball game that you are going to get to watch, you get a pair of the VR glasses, so you get to be there even though you're not there, but it feels like it. And it does really feel like it. I know, Lori, you've also done the movie theater experience when you're watching a movie in a VR simulated theater, and it was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It's not the same, but it was a lot of fun. And you can go to the washroom and get your own refreshments, and no one's going to pour beer on you. And that's pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Unless you like that, which is fine too. Okay. But you can see how that would be, and people could get subscriptions and then they could still make money and you're there. But if they sent you the glasses with the subscription package, it all came with it. This could be gangbusters because people are really sad about missing out on all of these live sport events. And so it's live-ish.
Live-ish. Yeah, I like that. I love the idea that, you pay for your season of a basketball game or basketball season or something like that, like ESPN or something.
Yeah.
And they just send you a pair of Apple glasses to watch the games. That sounds
and
awesome.
then it would be so
highly
much
unlikely, but really fun.
It totally wouldn't happen, but it would be a great thing to then everyone would have them, and and then you could do one-on-ones with your favorite people because because of space it wouldn't matter because there could be 100 of you all next to while they're training. And they could do all kinds of cool interactive experiences. Joe, am I going just way too far here?
No. Dream big.
Joe encourages me, Lori.
It's good. Joe, if you could do some kind of interactivity like that with glasses, what would you pick? Would you do sports? Would you do something else?
I'd go to baseball games. I miss
baseball games
so much.
Yeah.
I miss baseball.
Would you sit in the dugout? Like if they could have like some kind of special additional.
If that was an option, they wouldn't make that an option, but if that was an option. Yeah, I'd sit in the dugout for a game. Sure.
Wouldn't that be cool if you could hear everything that people discuss while they're in the dugout? I think that would be a huge bonus.
I think a lot of people would get in trouble if we could hear what they're saying in the dugout.
Oh, that's probably true.
There are, I think, multiple reasons they don't let things like cell phones in dugouts.
Yeah,
that's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, some secrets are being exposed and some bad words are being said.
Very bad words.
Probably.
Here's another. This one is a pretty strong rumor. I'm not going to call it a straight up leak, but it's certainly a strong rumor because, again, this comes from Ming Chi Kuo, and it is that there will be another small. Sorry, I'm trying to get to it. I lost my place here. Let me make sure I get the right thing. Two new iPads. One of them coming as early as later this year sometime. So Kuo says that Apple will launch a 10.8-inch iPad, possibly to replace the 10.5-inch iPad Air, and an iPad mini that will be between 8.5-inch and 9 inches during the first half of 2021. I wanted to talk about this one with you too, because Kuo's rumor or leak in connection with what already exists seem to be at odds with each other. The idea that he says is that these iPads will be the affordable price tag and the adoption of fast chips, much like the iPhone SE. So the reason it doesn't seem to mesh well is that these are two new sizes, which means Apple will have to start from scratch with brand new casing, which we know that immediately makes things more expensive. So you don't get to use the pre-existing hardware, which cuts down on costs significantly. You're using brand new hardware, even if the only thing that's different is that the bezels are further away. So, which is why I said the 10.8-inch iPad might actually be like the 10.5-inch iPad Air, which already has slimmer bezels than it used to have. It would be even slimmer, I guess. So you're immediately kind of increasing the price just because you have new hardware in there. And secondly, with the adoption of faster chips, the iPad Air already has an A12 chip in it. So are we getting the A14 chip in? Because the other rumors that we're hearing is that in order to keep costs down, Apple is going to update the iPad, the standard iPad, the 10.2-inch iPad. It currently has an A10 chip, so it'll get an A12 chip. That to me makes sense. But changing the screen size or changing even the case size of these iPads don't keep them at the low cost. So, Georgia, I mean, this is, coming from an analyst who's known for having good information, even though I like to joke that he hasn't been as on his game as he has been lately. But it also doesn't, his league doesn't mesh with its own information.
Right. The only thing it makes it, like, if they have the same case size, it's not going to be a whole research and development that they have to place into this. This is the time for them to come out with a very affordable iPad. I think that distance learning is a huge thing. A lot of schools are now investing in tablets to send home because not everyone can afford to have a whole computer. And so having an affordable iPad where, they're not that expensive, but they're still pretty expensive in comparison to what you can get out right now. So it makes sense for them to go into the market. So I can understand that, but I think that you're absolutely right. To have a different size where they're going to have to deal with a lot of research and development, plus if they actually have to go through, like now it's hard even to get things out because of the amount of isolation and you can't mass produce things. I don't see them going in where they're going to be spending a lot of time in order to have a different size. If they could find a way to do this cheaply, or even I could see Apple even taking a loss like they did when they put the Macs into the schools, just to get them in the schools so people learn. Because unfortunately, what's happening now is a lot of people are going to Chromebooks because they're more affordable. And because of that, they're losing out on the market. You get kids, you indoctrinate early, and I use the word indoctrinate because it's true.
You're right. You are not wrong, Georgia.
Apple won't like me, but it's okay. But you start early and then you learn a certain system. You want to stick in your comfort zone. And so I think it's really important for Apple to be part of that market, because you lose a whole generation. And then once you're in one ecosphere, you will stay in that ecosphere. Right. And so I think that they could do it, but I don't think that they would be actually changing the casing size to that because of the difficulties in milling, and they would have to then go through a whole bunch of new, setups for all of their machining and where it would be. That I don't see happening, but I do see that they could use one of the sizes that they already have and then send them out with a more affordable set of chips to get them into this market that is now going to be exceptionally hot for take home, easy, and affordable.
Joe?
So I have a theory about what these are. Assuming that these are actual products that are coming, I think these are Face ID equipped iPad Air and iPad Mini.
Okay. So that's still what I
what
like.
Do you
this
think
idea.
of the size, though? Do you think that they will be?
So on the size, 10.8 inches feels like a good, it's not a massive jump, but it is like 10.8 inches on such a small screen. It's going to be kind of noticeable. But I think this is more, but that I think is going to come from getting rid of the home button and slimming down the bezels on what we might call the top and bottom, the Face ID camera and the plug-in side, if you will, of the iPad.
This is exactly so. The way they're described, a 10.8-inch iPad and an 8.5 to 9-inch iPad Mini. These are small size differences, but could mean losing the bezels or getting them almost completely gone. Which, Joe, also means losing the chin, losing the forehead, and losing the home button.
And so one of the things that Apple likes to do when it can, like if it is going to change the case size of something or a screen size, and you saw this with the 2018 11-inch iPad, they like to say it's almost the same size, it's the same size, or it's almost the same size as the last thing, but it's got a bigger screen. And at 8.5 to 9 inches, they could do almost exactly that with the iPad Mini. And so, I mean, the thing about pricing when we're talking about these, the iPad Mini and the iPad Air are Apple's mid-range tablets. So they still have the lower cost one at $330, and that, Laura, you said that's supposed to get an update probably to an A12. I would imagine that the Air and the Mini go to either the A13 or A14. A14 if they're coming out next year. And so, yeah, that's what think is going on here, they'll, they probably adopt the industrial design of the current iPad Pro, which I think a lot of people have been hoping for, like an iPad Pro kind of design on an iPad Mini.
On
Plus,
everything.
plus they'll probably have compatibility with the Apple Pencil 2. So
Yep.
you get the Apple Pencil. So you get the Apple Pencil 1 with the standard baseline $330 iPad, and then you get the Apple Pencil 2 with everything else, and that's kind of an easy bifurcation there, because right now
Hmm.
you get the Apple Pencil 1 with most of them, and then the
Hmm.
Apple Pencil 2 with the iPad Pro.
So you're thinking what we're going to see is the $329 iPad will stay the $329 iPad. And Georgia, you are even maybe arguing maybe they'll even drop the price of that in order to help more people get into it. Maybe it'll go to $299, but they're not changing it. Maybe they'll put in an A12 processor chip, but that's it. They're not doing anything different. So they can keep the cost down, possibly even lower the cost. But Joe, what you're saying is that the iPad Air and the iPad Mini are going to get a complete redesign. Potentially, this will make them more expensive because there will be new casings, new screens, new displays, new technology. The Face ID is going to have the True Depth camera in it. So they'd have to bump that price up from especially the iPad Mini at $399. I'm not sure I can see them keeping that $399 price tag for an iPad Mini while also adding Face ID, almost bezel-less screen, a completely new casing.
And that could happen, but I mean, Apple could price them pretty aggressively, even if they raise the price. I could see them doing this for $499 for the Mini and $599 for the Air,
And that
and
still puts them at the mid-range price.
it's it. I mean, it puts it in striking distance of the 11-inch Pro, but I mean, Apple already does that with the MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So I mean, some melding of the prices isn't out of the question. And I think on the topic of the baseline iPad, uh, it they could keep the 10.5-inch form factor around, grow that screen just a little more,
Mhm.
to the
Yeah, because
current.
10.5 to 10.8 is not very big. That's a very small
and
stretch. Yeah.
and neither really is 10.2 to 10.5, which 10.2 is the current size of
Mhm.
the baseline iPad. And they have the parts around, they have the tooling in the factory for 10.5 inches, because that's the current size of the Air. And then they don't have to make any new accessories, like they don't have to make a new smart keyboard or Apple Pencil, or cases or anything. They have all of
Mhm.
those things already exist for people to buy for the new baseline iPad. If they don't have to change device sizes, it would just be a screen size update, and they can do it relatively cheaply, and just they put an A12 in there, and they can keep it at 329, or even go 299 is, I think, the education price of the thing already.
Mhm.
So yeah, they could even do that.
The only thing is that, for schools that cannot afford it, and if they're going in, I still think even with their education price discount, it's $299 for an iPad is an amazing price. I still think it's way too much when we're thinking of you can get Chromebook prices for like $160, right? Or they even have like a buy and you pay monthly. I don't know if Apple has a monthly fee that schools can pay instead of paying in a chunk. I'm assuming that they should or would. But I think that they still would have to drop the price for massive amounts of schools to be able to deal with it. I think $299 is still too pricey for
And
many schools and for many areas in the States right now.
and that's a really good point, Georgia, and especially when you consider, and I bring this up now because it's relevant now with the iPad. With the
Yeah.
Chromebook, you're getting a keyboard and trackpad in that price.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And that's it it's a great way to interact with a computer, is a keyboard
Yeah.
and trackpad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cheapest combo that you can get right now for any iPad is, I think it's $150 for Logitech's Combo Touch case with a keyboard and trackpad accessory built into it. And that's, so whatever you spend on the iPad, you gotta, if you want that functionality, you also have to bulk
Yeah.
buy those cases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the
So
pencil
that
too, if
almost
you
doubles
want
the
to
price.
use
Oh,
the
yeah.
pencil, it's another,
It's
for
$100.
schools, it's $89, which
80.
is less, like it's $10 off. But that's a lot of money when you think about a school.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, when you're talking about buying 500 units or
Yeah.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
And those pencils still, the way they charge, you just want to, like, you can see.
That's right. I remember you saying you just want to go and break them off.
No, I can see
The
it. How can
popsicles.
kids stop, right? So I don't know if it would, like, for regular, that's a great price. But if they're wanting to be really in the, like, they have to hit the gun now, and it has to be like, I would love to say like $199
Oh, that'd be great.
for, and I think that if they offered that, and then all the accessories for, even if it was like, $300 for all the accessories with it, or $50 if they could really push that, then we could have school systems where, and if they paid monthly, so that the school does not have to worry about shelling out because they have budget numbers that they have to keep with, and an upgrade program for the schools because kids drop things. This could be a great thing for, our education system, and it's going to be distance education for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. And maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see Apple's going to see the writing on the wall. They're very good at that. They're very good at recognizing the changing cultures in the world. And we might see, here's how we, just like you said, indoctrinate the young people. They're all sitting at home on an iPad, not a Chromebook, learning how to do things on it. And suddenly those, 20 years from now, they're all adults and they all have incomes and they're all buying new products and they're loyal Apple fans because we know that to be true. And like, I'm one of them. So I'm not, there's nothing,
not
there's nothing bad
anyone
about being an Apple fan and a loyal Apple user. But yeah, that's exactly a really great way to do it. And I think for so long, Apple just hasn't been able to like skinny up that profit margin enough to drop the price of it. But the iPad, the $329 iPad right now, it's been around, that casing and all of everything except for the chip has been around for so long that if all they do is put a new chip in it, they could probably drop the price. Because even if they upgrade it to the A12, that's still, by the end of this year, that's still 2 years old. So it's not going to cost as much. And, just get that number down just enough that entire school districts can go, okay, now it's something we can buy. Now we can justify it. Now it fits within our budget.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Before we move on, I want to tell you about our sponsor for this week's episode of The iMore Show, LinkedIn Learning. If your work life is anything like ours here is at iMore, you've been having everything turned upside down recently. We're all adjusting to the new world of remote work, though we always have been remote working. LinkedIn Learning is here to help. You and your teams can stay productive at home, and they're also supporting your well-being. Right now, LinkedIn Learning is offering a wide variety of their most popular online courses for free. So, for example, they're covering things like getting a new job in the current job market, how everything is so different. You can still get a job now, and they've got some courses on how to go about doing that. Professionals remaining productive and efficient while working remotely. Though we've been working remotely, for a decade, a lot of people are really struggling with how to be productive and work remotely. Things like educators transitioning to teaching online, talent acquisitions, how to build up your brand. These are all free courses that you can actually watch and experience. There's tests and everything that you could do at LinkedIn Learning. Some other things that you can talk about, like with the working remotely, for example, time management, developing resourcefulness. There's even courses on learning Zoom and WebEx and Skype and Microsoft Teams. These are things a lot of people have just never experienced and are completely underwater trying to figure out how to use. These are free courses that LinkedIn Learning is offering to people so right now. So for a limited time, you can get these LinkedIn Learning courses for free. You can hear from real world experts who share tips about how to cope with stress, manage a remote team, and even look great on video conferencing. You can check out the free LinkedIn Learning courses and share them with your teams. And if you want to learn more about LinkedIn Learning, the trusted online learning solution for 78% of Fortune 100 companies, their consultants are always available to chat. You can visit linkedinlearning.com/iMore to find out about dozens of free courses. That's linkedinlearning.com/iMore. And thanks to LinkedIn for sponsoring this week's episode of the iMore Show. So moving on to some more leaks, we are running a little short on time, so I'm actually going to jump ahead to talk about the real thing that is the spoiler alert. So if you're listening right now and you thought you skipped ahead of the spoilers, this is the one that I think is the most spoileriest of everything, which is pretty much everything about the iPhone 12. So Georgia, have you been trying to avoid spoilers? Or do you already know all the secrets too?
I don't yet, actually. So I'm kind of
You might need to plug your ears.
No, you know what? For this one, I'm in. I want to hear it because I'm ready. I'm ready now. So lay it on me.
So let's go with, and again, this is not official, but this information does come from John Prosser, who appears to have some very connected insiders that are giving them this information. And so though it's still rumors and it's leaks, I'm considering this to be about the official information, as official as it's going to be. Joe, do you want to go down the list of the name of the device, the size of the device, and the price of the device? Plus there's more, but those are the big ones.
All right. So let's start with iPhone 12. iPhone 12, this I think might be the most intriguing one for me. It's supposed to be a 5.4-inch display, which is a brand new size for Apple's OLED display. And that it is going to be an OLED display, according to this information, and it's going to come in at 128 gigabytes and 550 or 256 556 gigabytes, 256 gigabytes of storage, and starting excitingly at 649, which we're back.
649.
We're back to 649.
Yeah,
after all these years,
for a brand new phone size, for Super Retina display, not Liquid Retina, but Super Retina. So it's an OLED screen, Georgia, at $649.
That's a good price.
This seems like the craziest rumor. There's no way this is true, but because of who it's coming from,
right.
I'm actually on board with this, and I do believe this to be true.
And
a brand new phone size. We had a 4-inch phone, 4.1 inch to be exact.
Which goes to the thing of the iPad of like maybe, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're gonna
I mean, they can do it. They can put out a brand new phone at $650, completely new. That's doable. Okay, what's next, Joe?
Well, it's interesting, and especially in the context of the next phone we're going to talk about, which is the iPhone 12 Max. So the iPhone 12 Max is essentially the replacement phone for the iPhone 11. It takes that spot in the lineup because it is a 6.1-inch phone. It is also said to be an OLED phone, OLED, and it comes in at $749, which is $50 more than the current 6.1-inch mainstream phone, the iPhone 11. So it takes its spot in the lineup, but increases the price by $50. But that matters less because we have the 5.4-inch iPhone 12 at $649. Yeah, that is, both of those together are really interesting to me, that they're going to be OLED displays,
Mhm.
and starting at 128 gigabytes, up from 64, which has been the baseline storage for years now. That's actually really encouraging. So moving on, we have another 6.1-inch phone, the iPhone 12 Pro. The base level Pro phone, base level Pro, again is going to come in at $999. Also going to start at 128 gigabytes. Interesting thing with this, though, is that it's going to have an OLED display, but it's apparently going to have a different kind of OLED display, one made by Samsung, whereas the display on the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Max are said to be made by BOE, which I think makes the iPod Touch. So we're definitely gonna look at the any quality differences on those. But since Apple designs its own displays and really just contracts out to BOE or Samsung for manufacturing, we're gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see as much variance as people might expect, but I do expect there will be some. And then we have our final flagship phone of the year, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and that's going to start at 1099. And like the iPhone 12, it is also a new size at 6.7 inches. Just an absolute monster of a phone.
It's like this. You're going to hold your phone like
Yeah.
this. Maybe that's going to be a foldable phone.
Oh. Starting your own rumors, Lori Gill.
I know. Take that, John Prosser. So these are the information here is so incredibly detailed again. So it really does kind of hint to or point to like this I think this is true. I think that John has been lucky enough to get some true insiders who are feeding him some information. Obviously, it can all change, and that's the one thing that everybody knows is that even if today he's right and he's giving correct information, things could change later. So as unofficially official as this is, of course it can all change at in the next couple of months. But let's talk a little bit about the fact that there's going to be a 5.4-inch screened phone and a 6.7-inch screened phone, starting with 5.4, because you know how I am. I'm most excited about small things. I've been using the iPhone SE for almost a month now. How long has it been? It's been a couple weeks for sure. And I fell in love with it. I have switched over from the iPhone 11 Pro to the iPhone SE 2. I know how crazy that sounds.
Your primary phone.
It's my primary phone, and I'm not regretting the decision. I have absolutely loved the smaller size, the thinner lightweightness of it. So this one is actually bigger than the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE 2 is 4.7 inches. This one's 5.4. So I'm guessing in order to fit the form factor of what is currently the iPhone 11 lineup, it's going to be longer, but it'll be as skinny as the iPhone SE 2. Does that make sense?
See, ever since this rumor came out that there was going to be a 5.4-inch iPhone, I've been trying to picture what it looks like. And one of the things we've heard is that these phones are also going to have smaller bezels. So I wonder if that's going to lead to something that is still as wide as we would expect that iPhone to be. So same aspect ratio, but is physically actually as small or smaller even than the casing of the iPhone SE. So it's a bigger display, but
the casing is small. Yeah.
So
like they got rid of, because they're getting rid of, these are going to be the ones that are gotten rid of the roundness and they're square. So they could really cut it at the edges is what you're saying, Joe?
So what I'm really saying here. So the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 8 came out in the same year, and the iPhone 10, it was an edge-to-edge display, just like all of the new phones that aren't the SE, all of the current Face ID phones, but it was about the same physical size as the standard iPhone 8, the 4.7-inch, which had a 4.7-inch screen. So we're looking at something with a bigger screen and a potentially smaller body, And it doesn't, because they'd be getting rid of, they wouldn't have a chin or a forehead, and the side bezels maybe thinner.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, so that it would actually be not exactly the iPhone SE2 size, but very, very close to
Very
it.
close.
But a larger screen. It'd be a
Which is,
5.4-inch
and
screen.
well, and the iPhone SE2 is already very similar in size to the iPhone 12 Pro. Not so much, or not iPhone 12 Pro, the iPhone 11 Pro. The iPhone 11 itself, the 699 phone, is a little bigger because that is a 6.1-inch screen, whereas the iPhone 11 Pro is a 5.8.
If you can see these, we're looking at the iPhone SE with the iPhone 11 Pro. So, like, do you see that? There's just
Yes.
like, that's the difference between them. I'm holding them like level at the bottom, and like the difference on top is very small. Obviously, they both have cases on them, so that
But yeah,
it hides them a little bit. But yeah,
so I think we might be looking at something smaller even than the current SE.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Georgia, what about this 6.7-inch iPad 12 Pro Max? That's a lot of words.
The not iPad though, the iPhone.
It's practically an iPad.
Practically an iPad mini.
Very true.
I mean,
very
we are
true.
almost at 7 inches. 6.7. That's pretty close.
It is 1.2 inches smaller than an iPad mini screen.
Yeah.
So I usually do go with
like
the
a big
largest
phone.
I do, but I want it still to be able to fit in my purse. And I, with pants that have pockets, because for women they get rid of the pockets because they like to torture us. I'd like it to be able to fit in pockets, and that becomes really kind of monstrous. I have really tiny hands, and so I still think I would probably want the larger real estate for the screen and go, but it really would depend on, is this now too large? And I've done the huge phones before, and there's that point of like, you're like, this is now really difficult to manage. But I probably would be, getting the largest phone.
What's of the phones that exist, the iPhones that exist today, all the way back to the iPhones that have always existed, all through time, what's your ideal size? Would it be something like the 8 Plus, or would it be something like the 11 Pro Max?
I really do like the 8 Plus. I do. It was a beautiful phone. I enjoyed. So it's interesting because for day-to-day quick use, I like something that's easy to put into my hand and easy to carry around. When I am doing a lot of surfing on the net, I like to, with this phone, if I'm doing a lot of surfing, I will actually go like, I'm going to grab my computer. I'm going to get my MacBook and I'm going to use that instead. Whereas before, I'll be honest, on the 8 Pro, like it was, I would just stay on it. I would just stay and I would not feel that need because it's all like, it's pretty big. I can see everything pretty well. I don't have to worry. It's easy enough to game on. And so I stuck with the phone for the entire amount of time, but bringing it around, it's a heavy, clunky phone.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, how are they, just like what Joe is saying, that a 5.4-inch phone could actually be the 4.7-inch iPhone SE with no bezels? Could a 6.7-inch iPhone 12 Pro Max be an iPhone 8 Plus without bezels? I think there's a chance for that. I think, and again, we're talking about completely new cases, which means completely new form factors. It's possible that Apple is going to back off from the skinny, tall iPhone look and go back to the 8, 7, 6 look, which is a little bit wider, a little bit squatter, and just get rid of the bezels. So you're getting more screen, but you're not getting bigger phone.
I would be into that. I would be into trying it. Whenever I have a different form factor, there's a little bit of a learning curve, and the sites at first are a little bit weird or feel squished or squatted, and it bothers me a touch. I do notice that, and my games
Mm.
are a little bit off, and you're going to have to go back through it. But if it was not, I would appreciate. I don't mind it to be wide. I find that these phones are a little bit longer than I would like, and I actually like a more stout, and a larger aspect ratio instead of a longer aspect ratio. I actually prefer that. I might be the only one.
See, and I'm almost the opposite way. I would prefer the iPhone to get longer and thinner across the
Thinner.
screen.
Now, is that
Uh,
because you use it more for surfing and email, whereas
use-
I use it differently, do you think?
I use it more as a one-handed device. Like, okay, so
Okay.
when you're using a larger phone for like you're opening Safari and going to a website, are you using it, in portrait orientation, or are you going landscape with that?
Oh, okay, so you're gonna okay, so I do both depending on what I'm doing. If I'm watching a video, then I'm gonna landscape it, and
Okay.
if I'm surfing the web, then I'm stuck on portrait mode, or email, I'm stuck on portrait mode. If I'm reading a book, it really depends on, like, I don't know. I do both. Depends on the scrolling for where I go through to it. But I do try. My hands are small, so it is hard for me to one hand the phone, even if I'm like going to sleep and I want to only use one hand because the other hand is cold. So I understand what you mean to be able to deal with it. And when I had that huge honking of a phone, I had one of those little hand attachments so I could hold the phone with one hand and then kind of scroll around. I still couldn't reach all four corners. And I don't like the little keyboard, like the thing that makes it all squished down so you can one hand the phone. I found that very difficult for me to use and upsetting.
I want a phone where I don't have to activate the left or right-handed keyboard mode,
No, don't
because
do
I
that.
I
Horrible.
love the swipe
Yeah.
keyboard, but that's the only way I can use it really one-handed, is to activate the
Right.
even on this. This is the mine is the 5.8-inch Pro, and it's just a little wide for me. So I mean,
Right.
I might, who knows, I might get the standard iPhone 12 this year.
Right.
Who
If it's
knows?
only 5.4 inches.
I mean, that is a very attractive thing. I like getting the Pro. I like having the 3 cameras in case I need them on the Pro. But I mean, man, I think the rumor was for a while that the 5.4-inch phone was going to be the 12 Pro instead of the regular 12, and who knows how that's going to work out. But Georgia, one other question I've got for you. The current sort of rumor is that the leak even is that the design of these phones is going to be sort of flat edges, like the 5, like we last saw in like the 5 and 5S, or the SE, like we last saw in the original iPhone SE,
Yeah.
that
So
Lori's
pretty.
beloved SE.
Yes.
Are you, if you're thinking about that 6.7-inch phone, or even one-handing a smaller phone, are you worried at all about those edges possibly, I don't know, cutting into your hand or being
I don't,
uncomfortable in your
yeah,
hand?
I'm one of the ones that I like the rounded edges on the phone. Interestingly, I think that it makes me like the phones are probably much more slippery, and I think I've dropped more phones with the rounded edges as well. So it might be, better for me to
Better for
have
your
more
pocketbook.
grip
Yeah.
and to be able to pick it up. But I like the feel of a phone that's kind of soft in my, delicate hands, I guess.
Yeah.
Lori, you like better the square design of the
I
phone.
love the flat edge design. I'm so
Yes,
excited about this.
Why do you like the flat edge better? So for me, it's a feel. I like the feel of the roundedness. For you,
It's a design aesthetic. I like the
okay.
way it looks. So it's the little things, right? Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not just that it's got a flat edge. There's this tiny little chamfer right here. It's a tiny little angle. So it goes flat, angle, and then the screen. And like, how did Apple design that beautiful little edge right there that just like, oh, on the backside where the two edges meet. Oh gosh, it's such a beautiful little thing. And it's always been just absolutely exquisite to me. I was sad when they moved over to the curved edge one, even though like, oh yay, it's a new look. I always, and then when the iPad Pro back to that design. Oh,
Finally.
yeah.
Yeah, I now
So
see.
I am very excited about these new iPhones. If that rumor is true, which again, John Prosser did leak some schematics that points to this actually being real there, and it looks really good.
Yeah, there might even be a smaller notch. I would assume
Yep.
that would mean a new
Oh, I
Face ID
hope
camera.
so.
And
Yeah.
well, see, and here's where I am on that. Is smaller notch great? I guess bigger horns, bigger horns. But I don't know. I really don't care about the size of the notch until they can get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah, fair. I'm with
You
you on
know,
that. I don't think
high
anyone
power
is there's no notch lovers, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's in love with the notch. That's
No,
true. I
it's
mean,
one of those necessary evils.
I think the days of phones having iconic fronts are like in the Android world. I think they're gone because everything is a hole punch camera and so many things. All of the high end stuff is going towards like Samsung style wraparound or infinity displays. But on the iPhone, those days are only a few years left on that, where we still have our giant notches with big horns. And
Yeah,
In
I'm gonna
fact,
be sad to get rid of the rounded glass. I
Not me.
thought that was so, but it was so cool. And again, probably expensive, so they can probably save some money on having just flat glass instead of having it be rounded. But I
also
thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if I'm not really attached to it. I'm not going to be that sad, but it was kind of a pretty impressive, feat of being able to do that and make it still pretty stable. And
In fact, I do kind of wonder if the decision back in the iPhone 6 to move toward a more curved glass might have been because Apple was thinking, well, we're going to do this wraparound display eventually. And they kind of, researched and developed it out of existence and decided, you know what? We're going back to flat. We're not going to follow this trend of curved glass. Clearly, nobody cares about it. It's not that big of a deal. Nobody's jumping out of their seats to buy a curved glass phone. Let's go back to the flat screen. Maybe that's a decision, like an executive decision based on what the how phones are working out.
Well, I don't know how it impacts the decision, going to curved sides versus flat and all of that. But the OLED display in the iPhone 10, the 10s and 10s Max, and now the Pro, the 11 Pro, those are actually curved displays. They fold into the body of the phone. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it. And now they don't need to do that as much or as curved. I'm not as well versed on that stuff.
And maybe that's how they can keep the price down. Oh, I just thought of something else. What if only the 5.4-inch iPhone 12 is going to be a flat edge design?
Huh.
What if they're going to split the look and only some phones have the flat edge and others continue with the curved glass? Because we've seen the schematics, but nobody has said, and it says it's going to be with this phone, this phone, this one, and this phone. We've just seen the CADs of it. That's it. That's all we know. So I don't know. Some speculation here.
Well, then
We
get what we want. It's choose your own phone.
Yes.
I feel like they wouldn't put a new design only on the low end phone.
They put a new design only on.
They've done it before, though. Yeah.
Only on the iPad Pro. That was the high end.
And they also did the plastic versus the metal. Like they've gone for different things and different coloring. I don't know if it would be, what would be more financially, accessible to them if they already have a whole bunch of production.
In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, Joe, one of the things when you had mentioned that the 5.4-inch iPhone 12 would be $650, but the 6.1-inch iPhone 12 Max would actually be $50 more. I was thinking that just the balance of that would work itself out for Apple in the end. The books would kind of balance that way, that there's this really cheap brand new form factor but we're also charging $50 more for the next one up. So that kind of like levels out that really inexpensive iPhone. So I don't know. I like this. I love all this talk. So this has been a spoiler alerts. Jim, if you're listening, just call this one spoiler alerts, because it's just, we never stop talking about it. But we have come down to the end of our hour. And so it is time for us to say goodbye to all our company. So everybody that joined us live, thank you for all your comments. You guys are great. It was really great to hear some of your ideas on what you think is coming with AR glass or Apple glasses or whatever they're called. It's great to see that. So thanks again for joining us live as we do it. We do try to broadcast every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes it gets a little off track, but we try for that. So, keep an eye out for us on your YouTube live streams. And I guess I could say the thing of subscribe and hit that bell gizmo, because that's how you'll get the notification for it. And thank you to Joe for joining us on the show. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they get in touch with you?
They can find me on Twitter at jkeller87. That's JKELLER87. And also I'm writing every day on iMore.
No underscores, huh?
No underscores.
Georgia, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Oh, okay. So you can find me on Twitter. It's at Georgia_Dow. You can check out Anxiety Dash videos if you are dealing with any anxiety, or you can shoot me a email. I've gotten such nice emails from people at westmounttherapy.com.
Georgia at westmounttherapy.com. I love it. That's great. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at Appaholic on Twitter. That's APPAHOLIK. I'm at Lori Gill at most of the other social things out there. And thank you to all of our listeners who listen at later in the day, later in the week. We really appreciate you. And especially thanks to Jim Metzendorf for making us sound as good as we do. We couldn't do this without you. We really do owe you everything. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a great week, whatever it is for you. Thanks so much.